and I never got her true recipe.
Oh.
And that bothers me because...
Wait, let's start over because I want to talk about Pasteles. I don't think that I was in the microphone.
You probably weren't, but I was.
All right, let me
It's
start
all about
over.
me.
Hey, I made Pasteles.
I love Pasteles.
This is, it's funny. We were just talking about this, but I wasn't near the microphone. So now we're pretending. Hey, I made Pasteles.
Wow.
What are Pasteles?
Pasteles are delicious. Pasteles is like a tamale, but on the Puerto Rican Caribbean style.
Yeah, so Mexican tamale is based with a corn masa.
Right, corn masa. While the Puerto Ricans make it out of plátanos and guineos.
No, it's guineos. So I used to think it was plátanos, but it's actually green bananas.
Green bananas, plátanos. My mom used
No,
plátanos.
not
My mom
No,
used
she
plátanos.
made them wrong.
Man, I'll cut you. Disrespect my mama.
God rest her soul.
Oh.
My
the Juca ones. Oh,
you
are
got
the best.
Pasteles. I never had.
Mo's silent for a reason. He's like so shocked.
He's
Like
totally stared me down.
nothing I could say right now that would make sense. What do you mean you never
Well,
had a Juca Pastele?
I'm not a super yuca fan, except like the fried yuca. Those of you that don't know, I know we have a lot of like English Brits out there. They're like, I'm sorry,
What is
yuca?
it? Babylon, boys, Babylon.
What is Pasteles?
So basically, you take whatever the item is. In our case, it's green bananas, potatoes, batata, whatever that really is. What is a batata? Do you know what that translates to?
Batata is kind of like a potato sort of root family, yeah.
And you take that and you put it on a grater and you ratchet it
The
down
smallest,
to nothing. Right.
smallest holes on the grater.
And if you're fancy, your mom will buy a food processor and save her knuckles.
Sacrilege, yeah, the knuckles.
Because
There's always a little blood in your
You see,
Pasteles.
I have bruised knuckles, and it's not from fighting; it's from making pasteles as a child.
I'm joking. There's not. I don't want you to think that my Pasteles have blood in them. But you grind up the bananas,
And then what you do is you mix that up, and you make a nice masa,
When the mutton is nice and lean.
just like the tamales would be for the Mexican culture,
it's kind of like thicker than pancake mix. Yeah.
right? And then what you do is either two ways of wrapping them. First of all, you either lay it on top of a banana leaf,
That's right.
and then on top of a white paper.
That's right.
Then you spread it out, and then you put your choice of meat in the middle of it.
Yeah, so some people do fish, some people do chicken.
And I'm like, you're all wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's not pork, it's wrong.
It totally is. You need pork butt.
Right. It
Yeah.
has to be, chopped up and then put in the anise and all that stuff.
Oh, so you know how to make it.
Yeah,
It's not hard. You know, it's funny. It's this mystery that Pasteles are so hard to make because our moms complained about it all the
They
time.
would take 3 days to make it.
Yes.
And then, but that's the whole thing. Like, the reason I always thought it was super hard to make is because my mom, I grew up broke.
Yeah.
Right? I grew up on welfare and nothing. But my mom, when she made pasteles, we lived like kings.
Oh, yeah.
Because they sold like people were like, she was a crack dealer. That's what it was.
Yes.
And the thing that makes me laugh the most is because you're right. Now looking back, it's not that hard to make. I could probably make a batch tomorrow. But because I thought these people are paying all this money, it must be impossible to make. Why would they pay my mom all this money for these pasteles? But you know what? I used to get nice sneakers out of it, so I can't complain. Papa.
And you put a little ketchup on there.
Oh, you know what? I posted a picture on Instagram on my food page the other day to piss people off because I was having some pasteles de yuca, and I put ketchup and hot sauce, and I left it on the picture.
Wait, you put it on the pastel or was it on the side?
No, I put it right on top of the pastel.
Oh.
And like every Puerto Rican I know came at me. It was like,
Really?
"Yo, what's wrong with you?
So you grew up with
sacrilegious."
I grew up with ketchup on Pasteles.
My man.
Yeah,
My
that's
man.
weird.
Yeah, no, listen, go check it out. People were bashing me.
That was our hot sauce, man. Except it was sweet. But Pasteles. So I made Pasteles. I think the letdown of making Pasteles is you work hard and then you stack them up like, hundreds. Is that too high?
I'm gonna lower it.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, you're kind of hiding your face. Great, more editing for me. Great,
That is great television right there.
So I was saying that
The letdown.
the letdown is you have your masa and you put your meat in and you wrap them, and my daughter's tying them and we're making them, and then you stack them up like bricks of gold, and they really are only like 12.
You felt like you've been there for 3 days.
Yes, exactly. So I think that is the perception is they're decently easy to make, but you would have to grind. I ground 15 little bananas that were green. and one, you need a yautilla. Those of you that are Puerto Rican out there.
Yautilla.
You need a yautilla. That's how my mom's recipe is. 15 bananas and a sort of like large yautilla.
That's what I think is so amazing about homemade foods, right? Like yesterday, I've been making homemade applesauce lately.
Really?
Yes, with brown sugar and some cinnamon, a little dash of vanilla, tu sabes, and I love it. And yesterday I got in the mood for it, and I peeled like 100 apples and like 100 Granny Smith and some, and then I made it. And it was like,
Where'd it go?
and I made it. I use a ricer to actually like mash the apples into the sauce, and I felt like it's gonna be like 8 pounds of this stuff. And it was like so little.
Oh, it
I
was
was
like a
so
jar.
disappointed,
Yeah,
but you
yeah.
know what? It was so delicious. I love it warm.
I
too.
bet. It sounds cozy.
If you never had warm applesauce, you're a loser. No, I'm
Man,
kidding,
what an
I'm kidding.
extreme chef.
No, try it.
Yeah.
It's a very simple thing. Apples, brown sugar and cinnamon when you're done, but you have to put lemon juice or a dash of vinegar when you're boiling them.
Because it'll brown up? Or?
I don't know what the reason is, but I've tried it without and with, and you could taste a slight difference. It's
okay.
weird.
A lot of times you put like an acid on some of these things. So like, guacamole and applesauce so that you don't get browning and oxidation of
maybe that is the
Yeah.
fact, and I think it also to me maybe mentally impacted the flavor.
Some foods, it's better not to know what goes in them. You probably have your own examples, but my daughter wanted to make creme brulee. And or cheesecake.
Right.
I'll use cheesecake as an example. I'm like, God, I love cheesecake. So we go on YouTube, and it's like just egg yolks to start with. Like throw the whites away.
Yeah.
And it's they put the sugar in, and it's like
80 pounds of
80
sugar.
pounds of sugar.
Yes.
And then it's all dairy. It's like cream.
Yes.
Obviously, it's
Yeah,
cheesecake.
obviously, yes. But it's delicious. But you're right. You don't want to know how bad it was for you.
Oh, totally.
That's
when
like
you
what-
see cream and cheesecake.
Like my world
cream
famous
cheese,
cookies that I've always used to bring into work when we used to go to work. Remember those days? I used to make my cookies, and they start with 2 sticks of butter.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
right off the
That's
bat,
the one.
Right off the
that
bat,
gets you,
you're in a
yeah.
deficit. Then you got like at least a cup of total sugar between brown and confectionate sugar.
Yes,
It's like
yes.
that's a cup of sugar.
Yeah, and then to make your cookies nice and crispy, it's the butter that makes them kind of nice. Oh, damn it! Now I want to bake.
Oh man, I want to make some cookies later on.
So that's the holidays. Right now it's New Year's Day. We're recording this on New Year's Day. So Happy New Year to all of you out there.
Happy New Year.
And man, keep the comments coming, because someone wrote a comment recently that was like, I listen to you guys when I go do my street photography. I listen to the podcast. I'm like, dude, you shouldn't do that.
No, that's a bad move. That's wrong, son.
That's gonna kill your creativity, man.
What did Omar say? What was Mo talking about?
Click, 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 click. Random photos.
Oh goodness.
And which brings me to the topic of, we have 2 main topics. We're going to talk a little bit about how to grow as a photographer. Not that we know, but we're going to sort of spitball some ideas of maybe what we can do to sort of evaluate ourselves, because we always want to get better. And what do you think?
No, I agree with you, and I think one of the things you said in quick talking is I don't want to steal your point, but I'm going to
Go for it.
just drastically steal it. Is you have to at one point cull yourself.
Yeah.
Cull yourself. Go back and see what I was doing 4 years ago,
Yeah.
2 years ago, a year ago, and then today.
Yeah.
Do you see an improvement?
I agree. You shouldn't just look at this year. You
Right.
should really have a graph.
Right. Like even if like I've been doing photography, for at least 18 years on and
Yeah.
off between, point
Hobbyist.
and shoot and
Yeah.
professionally. And I found some pictures that I took that when my son was a baby and I was a man photography wise in my mind. I'm like, that's straight garbage, man.
Yeah, a lot of straight garbage. I
if it
agree.
wasn't because my son was in the picture, I would have thrown that picture out. Yeah.
Dad,
you.
Dad. You know what I did was I like to cull per lens to see what I do with a 35, for example. And then, it could get crazy, especially if you have a lot of cameras. Like we've had so many different cameras.
We have like one camera. Stop it.
I know.
You're exaggerating.
Yeah. But if you cull and you pick a camera like the XT20, for example, that's probably the camera I've taken the most pictures with, that and the 5D Mark II, Mark III, Mark IV, I'll call the XT20 and then look at each of the lenses. And what I discovered is the 56 1.2. Those pictures were my favorite.
Yes.
And
Easily.
so, yeah, exactly. If you want to grow, part of it is knowing what you like to like what lens you like to shoot. I think.
I will agree with you because when I was doing it a few months ago, because I was looking for a photo and I decided to just look through all my photos. Why not?
Scrolling, yeah.
I found what I needed and I'm like, well, you know what? I was enjoying my memory lane thing and I noticed, just like your 56, all my favorite shots came from the 85. So
yeah.
I think that's just a pleasing, wonderful, versatile focal length.
Yeah.
I think if you could use it wide as far as like back up, you could be up close. You can create so many beautiful fall off moments with delicious bokeh because of just the perspective of that
The
lens.
perspective of the lens. I think if you have enough distance, everyone should have an 85. Because if you're going to walk around and like do travel photography, it's a little limiting there. Like if you're trying to do street.
Just taking pictures of eyebrows.
Exactly. So that's a little limiting. So a lot of people have like a 35 and an 85.
Right.
You know, and they
That's-
can go,
that's- that's my kit.
Yeah.
I had the 35, 85, and then I added the 28 to 75 back into it.
Oh my God. You have the 28 to 75 version
Yeah,
1 or
version
2?
2.
Oh, wow.
Version 2.
That's a great lens.
On my A7 IV.
Oh, we'll talk about that. That's part 2. We're going to talk about some of the cameras that are on the table here. But going back to growth, so going by camera, I love doing. Going by lens, I love doing. And just like Mo said, going back in time, because it's great to see what you did great a long time ago.
Right, because not only seeing what you did great a long time ago, because if you don't have a reference point to where you were, you can't see how far you've come.
Yeah.
So I think that's a reason why I like to go back in time as far as my archives go to see how far I've come, because what I used to think was great is still okay, but now I do that much better. you know?
Yeah.
And I think-
go ahead. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, I think that's important for growth is self-analyzation of your work. And have to be honest with yourself.
I was going to say, like, sometimes we're a little blind to some of our bad work. You know, it takes it. You kind of, and it's what sucks is you're supposed to show your work to others and kind of have like a community, but it's hard to like critique your friends and. You know, you're supposed to show your work in a group setting where anonymous people can kind of
bash you, rip you to shreds, destroy every ounce of dignity you had
and
left.
that happened to me once. We submitted pictures to this talk at Unique Photo, and the guy was putting up our photos anonymous. You know, the
Unknown.
word. Yeah, unknownness.
Unknownness.
And mine came up, and he was bashing how simple it was. And, you know, he went on and on. He basically said nothing good about anyone's
Inside,
photos.
you're dying? Were you dying?
Oh, everyone was dying.
Okay.
And finally one guy stands up. He's like, that's enough. No. No.
That was Omar.
That was it. Yes, it was me. You bastard.
Stop it.
Stop hurting our feelings. I don't know why I was just from another country there.
Just guess who you are.
Yeah.
You're not from here.
Yeah, but someone actually did complain and said, listen, it's that the guy was a judge at like contests. So I think people were trying to see it from the other side. And he did have some good pointers, but I think people like sandwich compliment, you know, like you get something good.
It's very important for ego to not be completely beaten down with a broom.
What someone did well. You have to know what you did
okay,
well.
So here, even though your competition is completely off, I love how you focused in on your subject.
Yeah. You
something.
nailed focus.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So anyway, someone complained and he kind of was like, this is tough love. Sorry. So I kind of agreed with that. So
That's another thing too about being honest with your friends is you have to tell them off the bat, this is my personal opinion of what I'm looking for in a photo.
Yeah.
You know, because the person may have shot the photo with this thing in mind,
true.
but you have no idea what he had in mind.
Yeah, for example, like I'm starting to like pieces of buildings, like I mentioned in my video, where you don't know where it is in New York. It's just a window. I think I like working my brain with trying to just piece together how the architecture kind of works. But someone might think that's stupid. Hey, what building is this?
Hey, what is this? Why don't I know where I am?
Yeah, and I think that kind of work works best if you have a bunch of them together printed. Like,
Right.
oh, that's cool.
Right, this guy has a style he's
A
shooting
style
for in this section here.
Yeah. So to critique one photo in a project sometimes is a little hard. But what I was going to bounce off what you said one of the things we don't do sometimes looking at old work from 4 years ago, what if you took a picture that you never re-explored or grew, what I mean is 4 years ago, you were trying something that kind of got left behind, Like maybe you were doing street portraits of people 4 years ago and you just let that go. And looking at your old work sometimes will re-spark some things that you thought of a long time ago and let go,
That's a good point. Something that you were so passionate about, but something came along and distracted you and moved you a little bit to the left, and then that just threw your whole atmosphere off.
Yeah, for example, for me, when I first started photography, like I loved flower photography, like doing art with like flowers are so beautiful, but doing bokeh flowers and flowerscapes, and I think that was the year. It was probably 2008, 2007. That's how long ago. And so when I was going through my portfolio with the 5D cameras and I was like looking at pictures, I'm like, why are there so many flowers?
What's wrong with me?
Yeah. And it turns out that I love that. And I could see myself doing more of that. So.
I think the Nikon system will lend perfectly to that.
Oh, exactly.
You know what?
Yeah,
I think so. I used to love Nikon flowers. I find it hilarious that for years Omar bashed
Here we go.
Myself and Georgie's Nikon photos, not because we sucked, but he just didn't like the way they looked.
I don't know about
They're
that.
so green. They were so orange.
On my list here, evaluating yourself honestly. I don't know if can you evaluate yourself honestly though.
It can be done. It's not easy to do.
But how? Because you're looking at a picture that you think is pretty. You take the picture and think it's pretty. It's not. You come to the computer and you edit this boring picture that I took, and then you post it, and you're like happy, and people give you thumbs up. But in reality, I took a boring picture of someone walking on the street,
But I think the way you discovered that was how you self-analyzed yourself. It didn't happen that instant. It happened when you went back and reevaluated yourself.
Yeah.
At the time, it was the greatest picture you ever took. You
Yeah.
loved it. That's why you shared it.
Yeah.
And then with time, your brain said, Omar, you know what? Now that we're not in the fog of that beautiful moment anymore,
Yeah.
I don't like this photo.
Yeah. The dream is to have like an insanely great photo,
Right. If you didn't get 3 great ones, you have that one that's
Yeah.
just epic, but it's not.
It's not, especially when you're trying to do street photography. That it's all of, like epic street photography is the serendipitous. Like something happens, like woman in red dress, yellow cab, and the umbrella goes flying, kind of thing, and you caught an awesome moment. How are you gonna get that?
One of my favorite photos from last year was a bicycle delivery guy in the rain. I love that photo.
Yeah, but is he just riding his bike?
Yeah, he's just delivering food, but he's at a stop sign. He's at a stoplight waiting for the light to change.
See,
and
that
he's
tells the story,
and he's
kinda.
being rained on.
Rained on, yeah,
And I
yeah,
thought that
yeah.
was a beautiful photo, and that was the only photo in my evaluation of last year that I thought was wow. Everything else was like, yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, so we should discuss a little bit real quick what makes a good photo. So just the basic level is it's exposed well, it's focused well, and then the next level, there's some sort of composition. Like so composition wise, the parts of the photograph work well. And then the black belt level over that, is it compelling?
Right.
So people stare at it.
Right. Is something going on in that photo that's just making you go like, what's going on in this photo?
Yeah, and it could be on a wall, and people will explore with their eyes. Now, it could be a landscape. People think, hey, landscape photos are boring. No, if your eye goes through the valley and up to the clouds and the light, and you're just like, wow. Yeah, right? And it could be a flower, but there's lines in the flower and the shapes. So composition, and then something compelling about it, and I think that's the level. It's so hard to get to that level that's where you beat yourself up. You got your exposure, you have a decent composition, and then you're like, why? There's no why.
And I noticed, which I purposely agree with, but I'm going to ask you, I noticed you didn't say focus. So
I said focus.
Did you?
Yeah, I said lighting, and then it's focused.
Okay. To me, focus.
You like out of focus photos?
No. To me, focus.
I prefer out of focus photos.
Focus sharpness to me is not paramount.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
No.
to me,
As a snob, I zoom in on photos, and I'm like, this photo is technically messed up.
I guess, you know, we're looking at two different things. I look at photos to visualize myself.
So why not shoot a f/16 and have everything in focus?
I don't want it in focus. I'm saying, to me, if I take a photo where it's such a compelling photo that it's a little bit out of focus, I still share it.
That's different.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant by that.
Yeah, that's
what I meant.
different. And that could kind of, some of that can be saved, like in Photoshop sharpening and this and that. But saying that an out of focus photo is what you're going for,
No,
bro.
no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying once you take a photo and you go back and review it and you realize it's a nice photo, it's telling a story, it's compelling, but it's a little out of focus.
Oh my gosh!
It's a little,
you just explained. I was shooting with the Rokinon 12mm f2, which is a manual focus lens, and I was zone focusing, and I caught a cool scene of a guy like talking to his wife, and he was like, "Come on, babe," and his eyes were like this, and his hands were out. So it told a little bit of a story, like, so you kind of look at, and he was dressed cool, but he's out of focus. And he's slightly out of focus because I'm shooting a manual focus lens, and so that always bugged me. It bugs me like crazy. So,
which I can understand, because you know what? That's the thing about photography, right? It's subjective.
yeah, some of the most famous photos, a lot of them are out of focus.
Right.
You know,
It's about that moment, more than that photo.
It's got to be a good moment, though.
Yeah,
It's got to be like Superman coming out of outer space.
holding Spider-Man.
All right, so I think that was a great conversation about growth, and let's move on. That was a good segue.
Hey, smooth.
Hey. Yeah, I will say that I picked up Moe's A7 IV, and we also have an A7 III here, and to me it felt like a little plasticky, I gotta tell you. You don't want to say nothing about that.
I don't know if it feels plasticky more than it feels like it has a different kind of coating on it.
Yeah, a different coating. It's
Like
called polyurethane.
Polypropylene.
But I picked up the A7 III, man. That thing's magnesium, titanium, adamantium.
No, you know what? I have to agree, though, Omar. The camera, for as bigger than it is of the A7 III, it's not much heavier than the A7 III. So.
A7 III is heavier without a lens. No, I think
it's all Tamron. It's all.
I think that's what we're gonna see is the cameras that their prices are lower. It's just gonna be very plasticky.
Which could be one of the reasons that some people are having overheating issues with it, right? The metal also works.
Are people having overheating issues?
I haven't had any yet, but I've seen people posting that it gets warm to the touch and this, that, and the other. And it could be because if it's not metal inside, metal helps dissipate the heat.
Yeah.
Plastic just melts.
I had one last one. So you know how you and I are like amateur filmmakers? Mm-hmm. Like we don't know LUTs and stuff, we do our best.
I don't even know what LUT stand for. I found out the other day, but then I forgot already.
Yeah, it stands for Luxurious Ultimate Trans Johnson. Anyway, I think that cameras would be great if they had film simulation on the movie side, sort of like what Fujifilm does with Eterna, where it's all set for you that you could film straight out of camera and look good. I wish they had film simulations where there's like a little bit of grain, it looks filmy, the camera picks just the right shadow detail, instead of having the photo film simulations be the same for video.
You mean like a picture profile?
That's what I mean. The picture profile. Yeah. No, but the picture profiles are confusing.
Right.
What I mean, something simpler
that
where it's called
says,
Matrix.
Right.
In the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Gotcha.
the Royal Tenenbaums.
Gotcha.
You pick a film look that you want, or like with a 500. What is it?
What?
The Gladiator movie.
300.
300. Yes.
500. There's a lot more guys
That
showed
was
up.
the sequel. All right, we're gonna go.
Yeah, I think Omar's punchy.
All right, Happy New Year. I love you, man.
Love you, guy.
Boosh. And tell us whatever you want in the comments.
Yeah. First of all, what are you looking for in 2022 from the camera world or
That's a
anything
good
in
question.
general,
That's what I meant
general?
to say. Yeah.
Do you want to see film LUTs on your camera already applied for you?
That's the one I want. All right, guys. See you next time. Peace.
Hey,